Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris, and the latest LEGO Technic Supercar has been revealed, set number 42172, McLaren P1. This is an absolute gargantuan model, and I'm lucky enough that LEGO was able to send it over for review so I can showcase it to all of you. This is coming from a long line of Technic supercars, and I can't wait to display it next to all of these other absolutely legendary models here. But the question is, will it live up to the absolutely amazing Technic supercars that we have gotten in the past, or is this one maybe not quite as good as some of the ones we've gotten? Let's dive into it right now. So this is the brand new set number 42172 McLaren P1 Supercar 8:1 scale. And you know when LEGO whips out the scale, they are being pretty serious. It will retail for $450 US, 450 euros, or 390 British pounds when it releases on August 1st, 2024. And it comes with 3,893 pieces, barely making it the largest LEGO Technic supercar to date. The last one, the Ferrari Daytona, retailed at the same exact price but had only 3,778 pieces, about 100 pieces less than this one. And the ones prior, the Lamborghini had 3,600 or so, the Bugatti had 3,500, and then all the way down the Porsche, the first one had 2,700, although that one was significantly cheaper as well. Altogether, this is the 5th LEGO Technic supercar and is being hailed, at least in the instructions, as the latest and greatest the LEGO Technic team has to offer. Even though it is not by any means the largest Technic set by piece count, that honor would go to the Liebherr R9800, set number 42100 with over 4,000 pieces, it is one of the largest, actually the 5th largest LEGO Technic set ever, and has a pretty large price tag to boot. Again, you're paying $450 for 3,893 pieces, many of which are smaller scale Technic pins, but also many of which are very large molds, especially several newer molds incorporated for just this set, like the wheel rims and several panel pieces, as well as a ton of recolors in flame yellowish orange. Unlike most other LEGO set reviews though, we're actually going to start off our in-depth look at this set by taking a look at the box and packaging, because this is one of the nicest sets of packaging that I've ever seen come out of LEGO, only second to some of the other LEGO Technic supercars they've done in the past. So this is the box the set comes in, and obviously this is a lot better produced than normal LEGO packaging. It offers a premium experience, almost feeling like you're opening up an iPhone or an exclusive product where you can see the flaps of the box fold open, showcasing the real deal next to the LEGO version completely perfectly scaled. Each of the boxes are numbered 1, 2, and 3, so you know the order in which you need to actually be removing pieces, and the 2 instruction manuals are underneath the boxes, and they're also phenomenally detailed, with tons of additional materials, referencing details, and just in development production shots of how they actually brought this to life. This is a completely unique way of packaging a LEGO product, and it feels incredibly premium in the way it's done. I love how you have the color scheme of the set alongside the logos of the company. The manuals are incredibly thick and offer a ton of information about not just obviously how to build the set, but also the inner workings of the company and how it all comes together. And at the bottom there is this really nice printed fold-out display showcasing the LEGO Technic and McLaren logos. Inside one of the boxes, they actually have the wheel hubs set specifically aside in their own cardboard container, ready to be installed into the model, really just adding to the premium and deluxe feel of the packaging. But now, let's dive deep into this LEGO Technic set, as I showcase every single thing that you can do with it, from the gear changing and the gearboxes and all the different details that you can do to make this model come to life. Let's jump into that right now. Okay, so here we have the McLaren P1, the full vehicle by itself, and this is absolutely jam-packed full of functions. I actually want to start off by taking a look at the exclusive plaque provided with the set. Much like the previous Ferrari model, this plaque is printed, although unfortunately the molding mark is very, very visible in the center. I'm not necessarily saying a sticker would have been better, but it is a little unfortunate, and a downside of printing these plaques is that you do have that molding mark. Otherwise though, this provides information and detailing about the car, the max power, torque, speed, so on and so forth, of course with a top-down view of the actual real-life vehicle as opposed to the Lego car, keeping in line with the Ferrari model that we got just a couple years prior. Moving aside to the actual vehicle itself, obviously the entire bulk of the build just goes directly into making the car, with only one other side build being a small little handbag you can store in the front trunk, which is just kind of a tradition at this point. They've included these miniature handbags in all of the Technic supercars so far, so this one has one as well. Otherwise, let's jump into the functionality and overall aesthetics of this vehicle. This is the first time that they've ever done a supercar in the flame yellowish orange, or as Bionicle fans know, Keyed Orange color scheme. Previously, they started off with orange, then they did blue, green, red, and now we're back to a shade of orange, but it's kind of mixed between orange and yellow, and it is really stunning and spectacular. I absolutely love the color scheme on this vehicle, and I think that the color scheme integrating the black mixed in with the flame yellowish orange is a really slick color scheme for a set like this. It also totally makes sense for the McLaren to have this color scheme, given that a lot of the promotional materials surrounding this particular vehicle had it in this color. I'm sure it was required by the licensee to actually have it be in a shade of yellowish orange, so it totally makes sense that it looks like this. Overall, all of the decals in the set, from the many different logos as well as some of the other different logoing and detailing for the texture on the back of the car, are all printed. There are no stickers in the set, and the same goes for even the insides of the wheels, where you can see the logo printed on the brake pads in there. Now, the way that this works is that, first off, you start off the build by putting together one of the most intricate car gearboxes that you'll ever see in an official LEGO set. And I had to get some footage of it while it was still being built because, unfortunately, a lot of it is kind of closed up. Even when you remove the back part of the car, which I'll showcase in a second, you don't really get a chance to clearly see the whole workings of the gearbox until you actually put it together yourself. And this is the type of LEGO set where the building experience is as much of what you pay for as compared to the final model. The gearbox facilitates the movement of the pneumatic and hydraulic pistons on the back of the model itself, and those can actually be actuated by obviously rolling the car back and forth, but you can choose the rate at which they accelerate by changing the gears. There is a gear changer for forward, neutral, and reverse built into the car itself, as well as a speed changer to choose how fast you want the pistons to move for the speed the car is going. The door opening mechanism is actually quite clever as well. To open up the doors, they just lift up just like the actual thing, and if you look very closely, there's actually a spring element that facilitates all of this. There's a little spring inside of this door here that's linked to this bar, and then all of that is linked to a whole Technic assembly on the side here. It's actually quite complicated, but it allows it to close super satisfyingly, so when you actually swing down the door to close it, it just pops in like that, almost like you're shutting the actual door to a car, which is super cool. And then when you lift it up, the hydraulics actually in the spring cause it to remain at this upward motion, which is the perfect exact way that the actual real-life vehicle opens the doors. Having these gull wing doors that open up like this are very nice, and not something you see on a normal LEGO Technic car, but this is no normal LEGO Technic car. It is something truly special, and it's really interesting seeing the gull wing doors actually be integrated into the model itself. Closing those up though, let's take a look at the sculpting of the front of the vehicle first. You've got a lot of recolors factored in the flame yellowish orange color for these Technic panels, as well as some new pieces integrated in this set, new curvature elements in a smaller sort of bend to allow it to have all the right detail it needs. The way the lights are done are honestly pretty simple. It's just a little system assembly here with some transparent 1x1 round clear tiles, as well as a claw element being used for kind of the line around the headlights itself. The only thing is that the exposed stud here does feel a little unfinished. I don't know how else they would have done it, but I think that really should have been covered up by at least a tile or something like that, because basically there are no other studs really visible in the model itself, but it's a minor thing, and I think the general curvature and shaping is still pretty good. Moving onwards to the actual rest of the hood here, you'll notice this is a specialized printed element with the logo featured on it, and the entire thing does lift up, allowing you to have access to the front trunk. On the inside, you can see the spring-loaded suspension system. This is featured on both the front and back of the vehicle, and these are actually really nice, highly specialized spring components that just bend ever so slightly, allowing you to have a little bit of hydraulics as you race around uneven terrain. It is the right amount of hydraulics that you would expect for the suspension, for the car to actually be able to move the wheels up and down, although unfortunately when fully pressed down, the wheels actually hit the top of the rim here, kind of preventing it from moving too far, but it's not that big of a deal because you can just kind of push down on the car very gently and it works out just fine. Moving onwards to the rest of the vehicle, as we move inwards to the actual interior seat, let's go ahead and take a look at what the driver's seat looks like. Lifting up one of the doors here, the driver's seats are also colored in the flame yellowish orange color, which totally makes sense. As per most Technic vehicles, the steering is hooked up to the wheel, so you can see you have full-on steering there as you turn the wheels back and forth, and a whole array of printed components in the center of the car, including an exclusive printed tile with a code on it. This will allow you to unlock the vehicle online as a kind of license plate registration system for the vehicle itself, and every single set has a unique license plate code. These are printed with a slightly different style of printing as other Lego pieces. You can kind of feel the rough edges of the printing because they made a unique one for every single car that they produced, but I think it's really cool. It kind of adds a little level of exclusivity to the vehicle and encourages people to try to collect their own tiles because they've been doing this for the supercars. Also, the most important feature to see here are these two different colored tabs here. These flame yellowish orange tabs are very crucial because they are the gear shifters. Pressing them one way or another allows you to shift to lower or higher gear. And all of these are hooked up to a pretty crazy mechanism on the inside of the gearbox, which we'll take a look at in a second, which allows you to change how quickly the pistons are actually going to articulate. Closing this model here, the door, you can work our way backwards to the back of the model where everything is finished off really nicely. You've got the exhausts on the back utilizing these fin elements of Technic fins, which are really cool. It kind of can imagine the exhaust coming out of the back here. Some back lights as well as the back tail lights in red, which are really large kind of flex tube pieces, and even some system assemblies on the back here. The thing that I was kind of wondering was if there would be a license plate, but unfortunately there is no printed license plate or anything like that. I guess for a car like this, you wouldn't necessarily have one anyways, because it's not like you're going to be driving it around on the street, so maybe that makes sense, but no license plate is unfortunate. However, you do have this very, very conspicuous gear on the backside, and this is probably the only gear in the model that is clearly there just to have human hands interact with. But you spin the gear, and that will slowly raise the top spoiler here. So you can see the spoiler kind of raises and bends upwards like so and locks into place, and then you can spin the gear to lower it, and it closes very seamlessly into the actual back of the hood itself. It's a very satisfying feature and one that is a lot of fun to just continuously open and close and open again. It's just super cool how tightly everything fits in together, and I can easily see this being very smooth and slick and almost motorized on the way they've done it. Now, there is actually an additional feature that you can do with the back of the vehicle here, and that is the ability to actually remove the entire back portion to get a closer look behind that gearbox. The first thing you need to do is just move this off, just remove this, just simply pops off, only connected by two different Technic pins here. You then retract the actual system to close up the back fin. You then fold these upwards, pull these conspicuous orange pins out, and they are really the only non-flame yellowish orange piece apparent on this part of the model, and the entire thing just, boom, is removable. This whole thing is a separate sub-assembly that you build separate to the model, and now you can actually see the inner detailings of the engine itself. This is a really cool look because they really managed to have the tubes factoring into the exhaust, the drum lacquered gold elements to showcase some of the internal engine detailings, and of course, when I actually open up the door here and push the levers to change the gears, you'll notice some of the gears turning on the inside there, switching the way that we actually want to have the gear ratio be set for how quickly we want the pistons to turn. So this is what it looks like right here. I'm just going to slowly turn the wheels, and you'll notice that now they're moving really slowly commensurate with the wheels. The wheels are moving very quickly, the pistons are going back and forth, the cylinders are firing very slowly, but then we can kick it up a few gears and you'll notice that they start to move a lot faster. So now, with the speed at which I'm turning the wheels, the pistons are moving much faster than they were before, and all of this is because of an incredibly complicated gearbox that is phenomenally well done. It is actually really impressive to see just how much effort went into making the accurate gearbox for a model like this, and you just kind of keep on moving it. You can change it. This is, I think, the highest gear that you have, where you can see the pistons are really just firing off like crazy here, and then of course you can reset it back down once you bring it down to here. I think this is actually the highest function here. Yeah, this is actually quite difficult to actuate on its own. You really have to be putting both hands on the wheels, moving them back and forth as you actuate the pistons here, and then you can just keep on changing the gear levels until you actually go back to a much slower form of gear motion, where once we actually hit a certain point, there we go, now it's in neutral, it's not even spinning at all, and you do have the option for the whole engine to be in neutral, and you can move it up just one more click, and this is the slowest and least amount of resistance that you're going to get with the wheels spinning. It's a really cool function. I'm going to put it back to the highest gear here because that is just so satisfying to see that turning, to bring it back to the highest possible level. But overall, it's a really phenomenal piece of engineering to bring this all together. It is genuinely one of the most detailed and one of the most difficult pieces of LEGO engineering to put together, and I'm very impressed by how they were able to pull this off. Here's another look at that beautiful gearbox actuating all the pistons as the wheels are spinning. Just such a complex design, mechanically engineered to perfection, and one of the coolest things that you could put together out of LEGO is a fully functioning gearbox that really does work the way a real-life car works with a gearbox itself. So very cool. It's definitely not the first time they've done something like it, but thanks to some relatively new pieces, such as the 45-degree angle Technic rotational gear they introduced back in March of this year, you have so much more possibilities to make this even more compact than ever before. Moving on for the next thing though, let's go ahead and take a look at, with the cover back on, what else you can do with the model itself. I think the complexity of this model as a LEGO creation is not immediately obvious until you actually see the underside of the vehicle, where you can see just how much engineering went into an insane gearbox to make just the accurate amount of gear changes needed to have this model work out. It is genuinely a feat of engineering, and I rarely can say that about many other LEGO sets, that this genuinely is an engineering marvel that they are able to fit all of this together in the LEGO system. It is one of the most impressive LEGO builds, and it is super cool just seeing all of these different functions work together as one, all the gears turn the way they're supposed to. It just is so satisfying, and honestly, I have mixed feelings on this, because I definitely feel like one of the coolest things about building this model goes towards something that you don't really actually see. Unless you flip it over like I did and really showcase what's going on under the hood, so to speak, you're never going to really be able to appreciate it unless you built the model yourself. Which is why, for a model like this, the building experience is paramount. Everything hinges on the success and the enjoyment that you get out of putting this whole thing together. And I gotta say, I was really impressed with how they were able to pull it off, and I found it to be a very fulfilling build experience. But I gotta say, if folks pick up a car like this secondhand and don't get to experience building it themselves, it is genuinely a big part of the set, is the enjoyment you get out of building it. So unlike a lot of other LEGO sets, which you can enjoy to their fullest when they're fully built, this one, I would say, even like arguably 50%, maybe even more, of the value that you get out of a set like this is the building experience, which is how a lot of LEGO sets should work. But it also does mean that when it's done, I almost feel like I appreciated it more when it was half done and I was in the process of putting it together. But now, let's take a step back and talk about how I feel about this supercar and how it compares to some of the others, as well as my thoughts on the price. So again, this is a pretty expensive LEGO item. It's the same price as the previous model in the series, which was already one of the most expensive LEGO Technic sets they put out, coming in at $450 US. Is that price justified? And I gotta say that with a set like this, it is so hard to just weigh it on the merits of a finalized model. And the reason for that is because I have to factor in stuff like the engineering, the development process, the back and forth with the team over at McLaren HQ, which they actually showcase in the instructions as being part of the design process. Obviously, the build experience is a big part of a set like this as well. And with all those factors together, yes, I definitely do feel like this is worth the money you spend, even though the build by itself, just as a build, I would not pay $450 to buy this fully built, even secondhand. I definitely would not just get it by itself. However, I would absolutely pay that amount of money to build it, to just have the experience to put it together and then own it. The build is as important, if not more, than the final build here, and I just really want to emphasize that. Overall though, this has been my review of the McLaren P1. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of a model like this, and do you want to see me cover other larger scale LEGO Technic sets? That's all for now. Hope you enjoyed the review, and thanks for watching.
Alright, and with that, we have summed up my review of the latest LEGO Technic Supercar. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think of this build? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? How do you think it stacks up compared to the other supercars? And I cannot wait to mount this one on my wall and give it its place in history alongside the other supercars that LEGO has done at absolutely gargantuan price points. That's all for this video. Be sure to like and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon, and bye for now.